What's going on, everyone? Kyle Onstott here with Inside the Empire podcast. I got my guest, Anthony Williams, entrepreneur, former athlete. We're going to hear his story. Stay tuned to the end because this guy's got some amazing stories he's going to share. One's delivering your...
Oh, delivering my daughter on the side of the freeway. Yeah, that's one.
All right, that's a good
only
one.
one.
And then we want to hear a little bit about your career as a athlete. Playing hockey and kind of the shift in your life and really what happened and what caused you to go into the business world, right? Appreciate you coming in, bro.
Thank you for having me, brother.
It's been a long time coming. You've seen us since we were over at Parlay Cafe.
The very beginning stages of it all.
Yeah. Just a little team, little crew running our marketing company, just getting started. That was like 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago.
Yeah.
It was, I think, when we had first met and connected online.
Yeah.
Through,
look, build off of that a little bit for everybody because everyone thinks relationships just start and you just run, right? Everything is just always in place. A lot of times the best relationships are for people who build these relationships that take time.
Right.
And I don't think people truly understand that anymore. Like we were just talking about before, partnerships and mutually beneficial partnerships, relationships, networking. I kind of feel that the social media age, the technology age has made it where everything has to be so instant.
Yep.
Relationships. You can't do it for me now, I forget about you then, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like all of that type of mentality. It's just not really the way business works. And the more and more that we got out of Zoom calls and we got out of this, nobody can go anywhere and do this or talk to this person, we got back to the impersonal meetings.
Yeah.
And that brought the networking back. And that brought that, can I trust this person? And can I build this? And do I choose to build it with this person? So for me, that has always been the biggest part, right, is networking, building those relationships, and then maintaining those relationships.
Right.
It's a whole other aspect of business, entrepreneurship, and even just life, nurturing relationships moving forward. So.
Yeah, no, it is the key. It's the essence of life, right? At the end of the day, God created us to build relationships, to nurture our relationships. When we die, the only thing we have are the memories and the relationships that we built, right? You don't get to take nothing, your clothes, your house, your car, none of that stuff goes. You don't get your business, you don't get your employees, you don't get none of it.
I forget who the doctor is, his name. I forget it. I always seem to forget the name of the doctor for whatever reason, but the story is very simple, and it's this. Because even Steve Jobs said it when he was before he passed. He said, nothing, the money, all that crap doesn't matter, right?
Yep.
Well, there's this doctor who always deals with people who are right at the last parts of their life, right? So he says, not once ever have I sat with somebody who's ready to pass or move on. Have they ever said, man, I really wish I put this in that bank account and I did this with this stock? Or it's never. It's never. It's time. It's family. It's relationships. And I know it sounds so cheesy, right? It's you're understand, you can go through the hustle and bustle. You can go through everything. You could be all over the place. If you have a family, the only thing that's ever going to hurt you, it's not whether or not you go broke.
Yeah.
It's not whether or not you lost that partnership in that business. It's what kind of relationship do you have with your kids?
Yep.
What kind of relationship do you have with your family? Do they look at you the same way that you would want business partners to look at you? Do they look at you the same way that you looked at your family, your parents, right? And I'm not getting into everybody's personal instances. All I'm trying to say very simply is building relationships is the crux and will take you where you want to go. The more that you avoid it, the less likely I feel that you're going to be super successful because you're not building enough equity in yourself and your personal brand that you're trying to build in this quote unquote business brand.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%. And I think that's a conversation we don't have enough is the at-home conversation. Are you spending enough time at home? And there's a difference between spending time at home with your family and spending quality intentional time, right? Because
that's a hard one.
There's times even in my own life, in my house, that I'm not there, I'm not present. Like, yes, I'm physically there and physically present, but my mind is off. And if anyone knows me and knows how my mind wanders, like I'm in a million places at once. So for me, it's like, how much intentional time am I spending with my daughter, with my wife, like, and with distractions off, like. And another conversation I just had with my family, my wife, the other day is like, do people even eat dinner at the table with their families anymore? Is that even a thing? Because it was when I grew up, but we're a generation of fast food. Like, people were just bringing home fast food. Like, I don't think dinner table talk is even a thing. I don't think families are gathering.
I can say
at night, right?
I can say I do it.
Good.
I can say I do it, but I also.
And I'm not calling you out specifically.
I don't care. I actually do it, but I am terrible. I'm willing to admit how terrible I am at staying at the table. Right? Whether it's a business phone call or like Aaron Judge was hitting his 61st home run to break the record. So like I had that on while we were eating, right? Because I'm like, I have to watch, right? For whatever reason, like it was going to affect my life in whatever way, right? Yeah. Which it wasn't. But I every day, I think I've always used this, and I firmly believe this. So I think you have to try to get better each day. I think it's unrealistic to think you're just going to be the perfect human being with your family and business and everything else, because I don't feel it's easy to turn those off. Yeah. I feel human nature is I want to be the best at what I'm doing. Yes, I want to be the best dad, but to be the best dad, we need money. And to be the best dad, I have to be good at my job, right? Because that supplies a life for my kids. Yep. So if I turn that off, right, and now I'm focusing on family, am I neglecting what is going to, in my eyes, make me the best dad to them? Right. That's the part I suck at. Because ultimately, they don't care about that. They don't. So, and what's 10 minutes? And this is the thing I've started to incorporate, and I'm incorporating it right now with where I am at work and where I might go or where I might not go or what takes me in the future, right? This is the one thing I incorporate is if I'm going to lose that deal or that manager or boss or that connection is going to be mad at me over a 5 or 10 minute time frame, it wasn't worth it in the beginning. Right? No business. You should be losing business over a I need delay for 5 minutes while you lost the deal. Yeah. What are we? Yeah. We're not stock market. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not sitting in the stock market waiting to sign this sheet. Like, get out of here. Okay, now if I blew you off for 3 days and you no longer want to do business with me, I get it. Yeah. I get it. But hey, I need 5 minutes because I'm doing something with my kid. If that manager, if that boss, if that whatever is if that's what's gonna damage your reputation, it wasn't worth it in the beginning. Not at all. Yeah. Not at all. And that took so long for me to understand. Right. Like forever. But I think if people can put it in that perspective, that people will turn around and go, wow, I can look at it differently. That's all. That's all you could do, because people are going to do their own thing. So
100%.
Just, putting it out there.
Yeah. No, it's all about perspective at the end of the day. It's like and that's what this podcast is for. That's why we speak. That's why we conversate. That's what relationships are built for. That's why we have, city council, and they just had a great meeting the other night, and a lot of hate towards Jessica. That was pretty sad to see online. Really? Yeah. People just like targeting her because there's a big push on banning abortions in Temecula. She was the only one that voted, and so she just got a lot of hate for it. And it was just sad to see people attack her for her views. And we're in that generation where people like, you can't have your own view, otherwise you're gonna get attacked on a personal level for it. Yeah, and it's sad.
I don't like it. I don't like doing my podcast and calling things down the middle. It bothers me because how do you work with conflict resolution, right? Like every day is conflict resolution. So if you're in the 100%. Mindset that you have a different view, so you're bad, you'll never be successful in business.
Never.
Because if you think every person that you're looking to make money from or build a partnership that's going to make money and revenue for your business is going to align with you on every personal detail, no.
You don't want that as an owner. You don't even want it.
So if you have that mindset, you've put so many roadblocks in your own way.
Yeah.
It's not even because you think. It is simply you've added more roadblocks. Mm-hmm. You've made your life more difficult.
Yeah.
Now you could be very, very sold on what your belief is. Totally get it. Mm-hmm. But if us as people can't come together just in general, whether it's business, whether it's personal, and say, hey, you're allowed to have yours, like let's talk at what we're needing to talk about. All the rest of that is irrelevant.
Yep.
Okay?
Let's talk about the subject.
Let's
talk about the matter.
Let's deal what we're dealing with here, period.
But we don't have to bring in your personal life. No. You wouldn't like that's just above and beyond.
Don't care who you voted for. Don't care what your thoughts are on on certain, like, you could tell me, but am I able to turn to you and say, I don't agree with you, but, like, I don't care?
Yeah. And this is the difference between people, because there's two types of people out there, right? Yeah. There's people who are open-minded and people who are closed-minded.
Yeah.
Right? The closed-minded ones, they don't like to be challenged. They don't like their thoughts to be challenged. They're very closed-minded. They don't want that. Me, I'm open-minded. I want that. I embrace that.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, the only way I can grow as a person is to be challenged in my thoughts, my beliefs, my everything that I stand for and what I think I know.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I'm a dummy. I don't know nothing. Like there's scientists, engineers, doctors. These guys know, like, and even what they know is limited in their expertise, and they're professionals in that space, right? So we know nothing.
Everybody has a place. I don't care if you look. I don't care if you're a phenomenal sports star. I don't care if you're a neurosurgeon.
Yep.
Everybody has a place. When you look at society as a whole, society is not just doctors.
Yep.
Right? Society is every single person. Who does the doctor learn from? Mm-hmm. He learns from the guy like me. Who was sick, right? Okay, well, how do they overcome this? Maybe it's this. Maybe it's that. Doctors need normal people. Mm-hmm. CEOs need people who are willing to go do the stuff that the CEO can't go do.
Yeah.
So, like, this whole elite status of whatever it is false.
Yeah.
And if everybody thinks that they're a CEO, that they're just better than the next person. First of all, the best CEOs are the people who they surround themselves with a team for a reason.
Yep.
Because those people will do the stuff that they don't know how to do.
Mm-hmm. They're the experts, right?
Right? So they pull people in so they can learn from them. Exactly. So, like, if you can't think that before the words come out of your mouth and you have this, like, elitist attitude,
yeah,
you may be successful now, but you got a rude awakening.
Yeah.
Because other individuals who are super successful or are working towards wealth don't have that mindset.
Yep, 100%. And I don't even associate with myself with those types of people because it is so dangerous to your own personal success. Like your circle, the people you hang around, what you listen to, it could be at home in your own house. It could be from your family. It could be from friends. It could be from coworkers. Like your surrounding and the things that are getting fed to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Play the biggest impact. So if you're hanging around people who are like tearing you down, don't believe in your goals or your dreams, who are consistently just pushing against everything that you are, that you want, distance your, like, run as far as you can from those people. And I'm not saying don't ever talk to them again. It's okay because they need you to talk to them because you're probably that good positive influence in their life that they need. But distance yourself because you don't need that negativity in your life on a consistent basis while you're trying to build your own mindset, build your own life, start your career, whatever it is, wherever you're at in life. You don't need that negativity.
But this is also part of technology because technology's told us to be independent, and I can cancel you by a click of a button.
Yeah.
From my life.
Right.
So
unfollow, unfriend.
Yeah. So now what? Okay, now where do we go with this? Well, we used to, society as a whole, society's goal is always the biggest common denominator, right? Like, how can we achieve the greatest common goal? That's what makes society thrive. Mm-hmm. That's what makes businesses thrive. That's what makes entrepreneurs thrive, right? All get together. You could do this. You could do this. I learned from you. I do this. Fine.
All pushing for the same goal.
Exactly. Then you take the influx and the amount of technology now where then people want a silo.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have this disconnect and they don't know how to reconnect out of this silo once they realize the silo's not really working. It's hard in the silo.
Yeah.
So
It's hard in the silo.
it is, right? So now people are turning around going, okay, I got to re-engage. I've got to get back to this, but I've picked up some really bad habits. There has been a true lack, in my opinion, of leadership and mentorship for younger gentlemen, younger women.
Agreed.
Where they're just getting all their information from social media or a viral video, and it's false. It's faulty. And that's the problem that I have, because the younger generation grows up with a lot of bad habits.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not talking about like 80s kids growing up with bad habits like, oh, I looked at a bad magazine for a few minutes. Like, we're talking about constant access of like real bad stuff on a consistent basis, right? Digitally.
24/7.
Right in their face all the time. There's no mentorship. And these kids coming out of school, man, we had more, you know it. When we were growing up, we had way more like guidance counselors and visits and do this and let's plan for this. I don't even see that stuff now.
Yeah, support of a double parent home.
I don't see it.
There's
right? And look, let's also be clear. There's been divorce ever since forever.
Yep.
Right?
Of course.
But now the influx of technology during those divorces for the kids, once that kid detaches and is like, hey, I no longer have two parents, who's going to teach me?
Yeah.
They go to the internet.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I'm not saying it's always a bad thing, but let's face it, the numbers are not.
It's always a bad thing, bro. It's
the numbers are not in favor of saying this is amazing.
Yeah.
Okay? Let's put it that way.
Yeah. And the only ones that end up successful are like the ones that put themselves in a circle of people who are going to help
the right circle,
get them there.
The right
exactly.
circle.
So, but what we see majority of the time, and I know this because my parents, my whole family, pretty much all did or does foster care.
Yeah.
And what we see is a lot of like these younger kids coming in, and they have no stability, they have no direction, no guidance, right? They don't have parents. They're getting thrown around from place to place. And once they start getting the structure and order in their life, they start to like, they get their groove, they find their groove, they start to get their character, their soul, their spirit, like they start to brighten up, and you know, they're lively again, right? But when they first come in, they're like distraught. There's no order in their life, there's no structure, no parents, none of that. And so to see the divorce rate, my parents just got a divorce last year, man, like they've been together for 30 years. So divorce rates are actually are increasing. And man, I'm 30 years old. That destroyed like a lot of things in my family. I could only imagine being 10, 12, 14, 16 years old and having to deal with that.
The effects it has on kids is difficult. But I have always been of the mindset of saying, I'm not saying I'm shooting for a divorce, but if ultimately, right, run it like your business. Seriously. And I know it's marriage, and I mean no disrespect to people out there, but run it like your business. If the cons outweigh the pros, and it's going to damage your kids, the entire structure and fabric of family, because you could have a very healthy family that doesn't live together.
Yeah.
It's been proven. Okay? So I'm not here to say you have to do this or we think bad about whatever else, right? Everyone's thoughts are their own. But really put it in the context. Do the pros outweigh the cons, or is it the other way around? Because if the cons outweigh the pros, you're doing more damage than good.
Yeah.
Right? And then but then you'll sit there, you'll throw your hands up later and go, "But we stayed married. And we did this." Right? Once again, I'm not going against it, but understand the damage, because put that to business. If you got an employee here where, you know, something that a lot of us could probably speak personally to, you're in a bad situation. And it just continues. The only person who gets phased out is you. Then what?
Yeah, I think that all comes down to the topic of conversation of, are we communicating in our marriage?
Correct.
Are we growing individually, which this
Correct.
doesn't happen because a lot of times our identities, and I find this in women especially, my mom, I saw with my grandmother, I see it with my wife, like their identities are found in their children, right? Like, of course the Lord first and foremost, but like heart and soul is in the kids.
Correct.
And when the kids leave the nest, like there's kind of like that gap of like who am I, where am I, like what do I do now, kind of like I'm lost, right?
Yeah.
And so I think it's just really important in homes to focus on you personally growing into the best husband or wife possible, because marriage should never be an option. The only thing that should be an option is if there's issues, if we can't talk about it, we're going to go bring in a third party to help us talk about it, because at the end of the day, communication is key. Communication is the most important thing that we have in this world. If we can't communicate, what do we have?
Run it like your business.
Nothing.
If you don't have communication at your business, it's going to fail.
Exactly.
If you don't have communication in your marriage, it's going to fail.
Yep.
If you don't have communication in your friendships, it's going to fail.
Exactly.
If you don't have communication in your networking, it's going to fail.
Exactly.
It is hands down
through
the one common denominator that has to be there for it to be successful.
Mm-hmm. And it's the most important one. It's the most overlooked, the most underrated. Like, man, just talk, people. Just talk.
Well,
that's it. Just have conversations.
It gets dumbed down because people will look at communication and say, well, how much communication? Right?
Of course.
And there's always this need to quantify. And I laugh at it, right? Yeah. Because it's almost like for people to be able to validate, there has to be a quantifier.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's not. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you just do.
Yep.
And stop trying to find a 1 + 1 = 2 scenario for quantifying it as well. Mm-hmm. Right? Sometimes you just need to talk.
Yeah.
There's no basis behind it. Just talk. Sometimes it's not. You don't need to talk about the kids. Sometimes you need to talk about crap that you like.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need to talk about the kids and say, oh, okay, well, they had a good day. Let's move on to something else. Mm-hmm. Right? And there's that balance. And if the kids grow up, this is why I feel you have some entitledness going on. Because then everything was like, well, then we have to always put our stuff aside for the kids. Mm-hmm. Like, mommy needs to be mommy. Daddy needs to be daddy. And kids need to understand that it's not at every snap and beck and call are we jumping. We're not your entertainers.
Yep.
We're your parents.
Yep.
Have you learned how to play by yourself for 20 minutes so we can have a conversation?
So true.
So and then that entitlement comes in because when everybody drops everything for them, what would you expect?
Yep. But we're also a generation of giving, right? You're talking about entitlement, like just give, like everything that like they see the toy at the store, like, no, dude, when I was a kid, I got a toy on Christmas and my birthday, and that was it. Like, I didn't get to go to the store, I see a toy and I get it. Like, that wasn't a thing for me. It was never even an option. But
no, one's better. You have multiple siblings, and they get a gift for their birthday. So then, like, other parents were like, "Oh, well, here's a gift for you, so you don't feel sad." Yeah. Dude, I had 2 older sisters, man. Like, when it wasn't my birthday, they were like, "Your birthday's coming.
Yeah,
you'll get something." You know what I mean?
Fair,
like, you didn't get one today. Right. That's their day. Like, we diminish things for other people because we can't handle it.
Yeah.
Right, and then we feel bad for those kids. Like, it's not your cross to bear. Yeah. Like, that kid needs to learn it. How are they going to learn disappointment? I'm not saying you try to tell your kid, like, hey, you're never getting a gift. Mm-hmm. But how does your kid learn disappointment?
Yep.
How do they learn to overcome being upset? Right? Like, that's kind of part of learning, last time I checked. But if we're not doing that, we're taking away a critical learning piece for kids in their development and in their growth.
Yeah, 100%. And to tie this all in, like, and to bring it back from like a business perspective, we're talking about what's happening in the generation today. We're talking about what we're seeing in our homes, like kids in front of their phones all the time. Like, they're being taught by YouTube, right? Like YouTube University.
My kids don't have
like,
phones, man, and they won't.
That's good. It should be that way, but most homes out there do. And so, like, what it comes down to is, if you're watching this, like, you really need to do some self-reflection and really see, like, am I doing the right things in my life? Am I doing the right things in my home? Am I doing the right things in my business? And a couple things that you could look at is like, am I communicating? And not am I just communicating, but am I communicating effectively? Do I have effective communication? The second thing you could look at is, are my employees or my wife or my daughter, are we all on the same page?
Well, that's active listening.
Are we
right? So I'm actively paying attention to what you're saying.
Yep.
I'm not just whoop, okay, and then I come back in there. Are we actively listening? Same thing with business. Are you actively listening to what your employees need? Are you taking the necessary steps? Are you acknowledging it?
Yep.
Right. That okay, I hear you. How do we fix this? Mm-hmm. Right. Those are huge when it comes time to it, and that's why leadership fails so much with a lot of these businesses, because there is no listening. It's one way. Yep. Do it this way. We're not listening to that. We need to listen to the customers, because the customers are the ones who pay us.
Yep.
But the employees are the ones who get the customers to pay us.
That's right. Which you lead me right into number 3, which is leadership, right? Giving the right guidance, having a roadmap.
Of course.
Okay. Now we're on the same page. Now we need a roadmap. We need to make sure that there's some sort of SOP here, right? So we're on the same page. And so if you don't do that right now, if you don't have the effective communication, you're not on the same page, and you don't have a roadmap that built out for wherever it is. This is every area of life, right? Yep. Like this applies to your wife at home. Like, do you guys have goals that you've set together? Have you gone over your finances? Do you know what that looks like each month? Do you all of those things need to be in order? These are the conversations that need to be had. And you and your spouse are power partners. God created us to be power partners.
You should be.
You are. Just are you utilizing
Correct.
Are you utilizing the power, the tools, and the resources that you have as a couple? Because like me and my wife, we get stuff done. Like we are a power couple. She's a champ. She out hustles me. Like, dude, she's up before the dusk of dawn, before me, out of bed before. Like, she destroys me in most categories of life. Right. I used to be a personal trainer. She eats better than me. She works out more. Like, dude, all the above. And so that's how it needs to be in not just your personal life, but also in your business life. You need to have that.
I don't know how you teach somebody
piece.
to want inspiration, right? Like, because I think that's the key word that gets left out a lot is what inspires you. In a conversation I had last night with essentially he's going to be my business partner / boss in a sense, right? Mm-hmm. Hour and a half conversation, man, and the one thing that he kept wanting to reiterate was, I want you to be happy when you walk through the doors. Yeah. With your skill set and your talents and with what you do, it's important that you're happy. Otherwise, why are you here? Mm-hmm. I mean, and when you start off a relationship with that, right, it opens you up, man. It softens you up, right? No matter what had happened or what didn't happen, you're understanding that guy gets it.
Yep.
Because that guy's run multiple companies.
Mm-hmm.
That guy's run tons of different teams with personalities. Put all that aside. None of that means anything. How do we bring it dead center so you're happy, so you could do the job that I would like for you to do?
Yep.
How? So now you got to have an honest conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, there are less and less bosses or managers or leaders that actually want to hear what you have to say.
It's the truth.
Right? So
they're set in their ways, man.
I'm paying you, do A.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's the part I think that really hurts the individuals that are trying to come up, and why you have this flux of younger people, younger generation, which is like, I'm demanding this.
Yeah.
Because for so many years they've heard the horror stories, their parents, right?
Yep.
That communication has been broken down and really was never put at a level playing field.
Mm-hmm. No, it's true.
So to have that conversation, right, is like,
that's great. That's a great leader right there.
Yeah.
And that, great leaders when you come across them through conversation, through communication, right? And when you have a conversation with a great leader and you start like untapping and pulling out the wires from like how they operate, right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of common denominators. Number one, they put other people's needs before their own.
Correct.
Right? Like just like Jesus did.
Yep.
Like you live like that, you do that in your business. I can't tell you,
It's
man,
almost
you're going to be the
impossible.
most successful business out there.
But to be like that, in all seriousness, to be like that, that takes. You have to be humbled in some way, shape, or form. Whether that was a devastating thing that took place in humble, like there needs to almost be like a catastrophic life event. Whether it's business, whether it's personal, whatever it is, I feel for people to really come to that.
Yeah.
You know, and through personal conversation with this gentleman yesterday, I know that he had that. So understanding that, because his final words to me was, hey man, get off the phone and go spend time with your family.
Nice.
Right? Like, because he heard the kids in the background and everything else. So the only reason why I bring that up is I don't feel that somebody gets to that point without having something that really flips everything they had upside down.
Yep.
Whether it's a divorce, whether it's losing parts of a business, whether you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so the more that I think that you go through those catastrophic life events, it shapes you. Because people who never have something wrong don't know what it is to reinvent. And the reinvention that is something that takes some guts. Right? Like you could take personal plug. You could take my heart surgery at 21, losing my hockey career, going into real estate. Then you got 2008, which just crumbled markets all over the place, you know. And then you take my backstory, where then I came out to California, and with $300 in my pocket, I'm still here 14 years later. There's reinvention.
So I want to dive into that because we haven't really talked much about that. We got tangled in a lot of other things. Tell me a little bit about your backstory, where you grew up, and
where did I grow up?
What was your upbringing like, and then how'd you get into the business world? I know you played some sports. Let's hear it all. I want to hear it all.
80s baby. You can go find the book. I self-authored a book and promoted it, did everything, man. Self-published it. On Borrowed Time, The Reinvention of a Lost Soul. That's my book, written by Anthony Williams III. You'll see it out there. It's done very well. I'm very proud of the book. Let's just put it this way. The only thing I ever wanted from that book was to help at least one person. I succeeded at that, so I won.
Heck
You know, when people sit there and say, book sales, this and that, don't matter, man. My goal from the very beginning was to help one person. If I could help one person and clear myself of the story, then I was happy and I won. That's what the purpose of that book was for. So, growing up in New York and right in New Rochelle, right next to the Bronx, played hockey, man. I was doing so well in hockey, man. I was playing for semi-professional teams, junior teams, all alike. Unfortunately, at 21, I had open heart surgery. They gave me less than 24 hours to live. That's how bad it was. Needless to say, you know, almost 20 years later, I'm still here. So
you're a miracle, baby.
Yeah, I'm a miracle. So every day, man, is a blessed day. I don't care if I got $1 million in the bank or I got 25. Dude, I'm breathing. I got a roof over my head.
Amen.
And my kids are happy. And I think if you can have that mentality, and I don't say that lightly, I've been broken down numerous times. So. There's a humility there where it's like I get it, but I'm also, man, I ain't going past the points of like where my comfort levels are anymore.
Right.
You know, if it's
got your zones. We all got our zones.
I got my zones and my boundaries, and if I could make it happen within those, great. If not, good luck to you if you want to do it.
Yeah.
So ended up having surgery. Then I had to like do this huge pivot because I'm like, I don't even know who I am anymore. I'm 21 years old. I just had open heart surgery. I can't do the stuff everything that made me who I am. I don't even know who I am. I don't even know what my identity is. So I got into real estate. Then I'm doing well in real estate. I'm doing great. I'm selling a bunch of homes, doing new home division.
What year was that?
2003, 2004 to 2008.
Yeah.
And as soon as 2008 really hit, man, it was slow down of everything. Kind of, you know, some of the things of what you're seeing now.
Yeah, I would.
For people,
I would
right?
agree, yeah.
And, man, came out to California and it was like fresh slate. Now, I had the opportunity to do that because of my family. I understand not everybody's going to get that opportunity.
Yeah.
And I'm not here to say, if you don't get that opportunity, you're not going to succeed, because I think that that's utter BS. I had a family that took everything that they had to get me help, because I was dealing with a lot of stuff from the surgery. I was dealing with, whether you want to call it addiction, whether you want to call it trouble, whatever you want to call it, don't care. I don't care what people look at me like, because I know the story behind it. So if somebody has a pre-jaded view as to what people are during those periods of their lives, you have no idea.
Well, there's no place to judge at the end of the day, right? Like, we're all sinners. We all. That's all you got to say, man.
Same guy.
We're all just a bunch of sinners.
Listen, the same guy who's smoking crack. Think about the person who won't stop buying shoes, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's an addiction, right? So we can classify as whatever makes you feel better at night.
Exactly.
Right? Feel better at night, right? So, past that point, I'm like, okay, now what do I do? I don't know what I want to do. So I'm like, all right, I'm out in California. I did repos. I was repoing people's cars for banks in a repo company. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I don't really want to be doing this for, very long. So I was in sales. Always was doing sales. I'm like, let me get back in sales. Got in tech sales. I said, I don't know if I really, if this is going to do it for me all the time or not.
Yeah.
Let's figure it out. So I went and I decided, I'm like, I love video games. I love everything about them. I said, let me go and let me get into the business. So I did. I took my degree online.
Became a gamer?
Oh, no. I was a gamer before, but I was finally learning about the business side of games.
Okay.
And
So you grew up playing games then?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Cool.
And I was sick a lot, too. So games really saved my life in a lot of ways, because it took my mind off of how bad medically. I had a lot of sickness stuff as a kid. So it took my mind off of it. And it was like, it didn't matter, because what a lot of people don't understand was, at a very young age, and this is in my book, I unfortunately had to go through sexual abuse from a family member. It wasn't internal family. It was more of outside family member. Mm-hmm. So how do you overcome that at a really young age?
Yeah.
I dug into hockey, man. Became the best hockey player I could know. Played video games. And then that stuff just started to boil up the older I got. Mm-hmm. So when you had surgery, it's like, why the F am I here?
Right.
Like, why am I here? Like, dude, I've been through some crap. Like, constantly sick. This failed. That. Like, just take me, dude. Like, you know what I mean? Like scratch the slate clean, dude. Like, I don't want to have no kids. I don't want to, I don't want to be responsible for this. And then they're going to have a dad that could die at any time. Like, what kind of life is that? Right? This was the mentality.
Right.
Right? So,
this is your internal dialogue.
Yeah. This was the self-destruction, right? That was coming into play. So, take that further, and then it was, man, I got into building these games. Freaking kid was born, dude, in 2011. My son was born, and we had gotten married, and I'm like, dude, the second I held him, I'm like, what the hell was I thinking? I got to be better, man. So got to figure this out. So anyway, I did a 4-year degree. I did it in 3 years. I did it all online, and I've never done this kind of stuff before.
Nice.
So I left with the Academic Achievement Award. I left with Leadership and Team Building Awards. I left with tons of praise going into it, but I'm going into this and I'm like, wait a second, there's things about this industry I don't like the way they treat people, certain things in there. I'm like, I'm going to take what I learned from here and take it into different facets of business. So I took it into telecom, I took it with digital marketing, took it into messaging, took it into all these different types of business aspects. And that's what gave me the background and experience.
Right.
And I parlayed that into consulting and different contracts and doing all these different things. So anyway, over the years, it's been a combination or a compilation of different experiences that I've melded together, and is what brought me to where I am, which currently right now is IDIQ, where we are one of the leaders in identity theft protection and credit monitoring. And how does it work there? Man, I built such a crazy and diverse network over the years that, that's why they wanted me to come on with them.
Right.
So that was it.
So you've been able to utilize your network that you built from over the years, other companies, other industries, and you were able to utilize that same network where you're currently at, different industry.
20 years of friendships, networking, getting to know, meet and greets. I mean, didn't matter, man. I just reached out to people because at the end of the day, I don't care what product it was that was to sell. I don't care what company it was. They're always buying you.
Yeah.
And
fact.
if you think making a quick dollar today is beneficial because it made you a quick dollar, you're false. Because things that will make me more money later on were even the people I hadn't talked to in 10 years.
Yeah.
That I contacted, but they were like, dude, you're solid.
Yeah.
So I am firmly entrenched in that thought process of don't screw somebody today to make $1 because you'll lose 100,000 times more of that dollar down the road by not getting their business when you need it most.
Yeah, I agree. Agreed. That's at the end of the day, like when you look at business, if like we talked about, if you put other people's needs before your own, right?
Yep.
You put their goals in front of you.
Correct.
And at the end of the day, like if you don't know somebody's goals, you don't know what is their driving factor in life. You don't know their why. You don't know what wakes them up and gets them out of bed every single day. Dude, you don't have the strings to be able, and this is as a leader, right? This is for, as a leader, you don't have the strings to be able to pull, to be able to motivate, inspire, encourage, direct, guide these people, right? You don't know how their mind operates. You don't know what their focus, like you need to know those things and uncover what drives you.
But you need to be a successful leader and a good leader is you need to understand how to draw that why out of people.
Yes.
Even just by asking a question, even just by meeting them.
Yep.
People don't do that. So that's where that differential is, right? Like where I said earlier, when I said before, and I said, look, I'm still working on this day by day.
Yeah.
Because I probably don't spend enough time with my kids on a consistent basis. And I admit that. Am I going to cry about it? No. Am I going to beat myself up over it anymore? No. Because I've at least acknowledged it. And every day I do a little bit more, or a little bit more, or a little bit more to be that better person. Period.
Yep.
So to think that you can just change it overnight and you're just going to flip this over and we're just going to become, there was the dark side. Now all of a sudden we're light. We're like, I don't care, right? It goes for everybody. Whether it's religious, whether it's not. It ain't going to happen. It doesn't happen like that.
Change takes time.
It does.
But
now, consciously,
change could happen in an instant as well, right?
It could, but remember, if we're saying change takes time, then that instance was a compilation of things that you wanted to happen. It just finally happened. Yeah. Right? And that's where I think people, they forget. They go, on this day, I said I wanted to change, so it starts there. But if for the last 7 years, you really, in your heart, were like, I want to make this change. Maybe you didn't vocalize it. Maybe you didn't take specific steps to do it.
Yeah. Which is important.
It's in your heart, man. It's not what you write on paper.
Yeah.
It's not what you post on social media. It's not what you say in front of other people. It starts in here.
Agreed.
All growth is inward, outward.
Yeah. In here and in here.
And then it comes out. And until you do this, you're never going to inspire people out here.
Yeah.
Never. It's never going to happen.
Yeah, 100%. You have to have self-reflection. You have to be able to look into your life and see ultimately like where your strengths and weaknesses are, right? And then like you said, being able to share it, but it all starts with you growing into, and that takes years, man. I didn't grow into as a CEO. I didn't like this business didn't just pop out overnight. No. This is 10 years in the making of just consistent knocking on doors, right? Building relationships, going to networking events, like doing the things that I did not want to do, but I knew if I did it, I would be in a seat like I am today, right? Correct. And I just did it consistently. And that was the key. That's one of the most important pieces is just do the little things consistently, right? Like just go to the gym consistently, just eat your breakfast, lunch, and dinner consistently, right?
It's gotta be now. It's gotta be now.
It's gotta be now. That's
right?
our
that's
mindset.
How kids are growing. It's gotta be now.
Yeah.
And that's damaging, right? So how do we flip that? How do we flip that perspective? Because perspective is everything, right?
Perspective is key.
Because you could think one thing some way, and until that perspective shifts, you're never going to truly understand that other person. So perspective is key. And I think that, like you said, the more open-minded people are, they're able to understand or see the perspective of another individual.
Yeah.
Until then,
Yep.
you just have two rams butting heads, and nobody will ever see a different perspective.
Yeah. Here's a good one. This is how you could see the perspective. This is how I saw it growing up as a kid. So we had a door. I think a lot of people do this, maybe not. We had a door at our house, and we would measure ourselves. So growing up, like, we had this door with all our measurements and the dates and everything, right? And so we could see our growth, right? Yeah. That was our physical growth. But something like this is just kind of like I'm realizing it now. Like, I never really looked at the perspective of, like, my personal growth, not just my physical growth, but like my personal growth. Like, I'm curious. I would love to go back to that door, freaking V&T Way in Dayton, Nevada, and go see, because I'm curious now, just each of those years, how much I grew, right? And that's how we show these kids, like, hey, look, you're 5 years old right now. You're right here. You're at this level. But as you grow, your character grows with you, right? You need to show that.
I agree with you, but there is a shame is a crazy emotion, right? Because
it could be
shame will stop you
Yeah.
From being honest with yourself.
100%.
And that's the dangerous part, right? Because people will feel shame.
Yeah.
And some people can feel that shame and be honest and grow from it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you feel that shame and you can't really be honest with yourself, you've stopped growing.
Agreed.
That's the part where we have to get, that's where leadership is important, in my opinion.
And that's where we all have blind spots.
Yep.
So I call those in my life blind spots.
Correct.
And it's my job to surround myself with good leaders.
Correct.
That can identify my blind spots, bring them out to light so I can see them. I can't see them. I mean, it's in the dark. I don't know everything. I know a lot of my weaknesses. Time management is horrible. Like you saw a little bit of that today. But I know my weaknesses. I know areas that I can improve. But I also don't know some of my weaknesses, and this is ongoing, right?
Yeah.
That my team has to bring up, like, hey, Kyle, here's some areas that you can improve. Here's something you could do differently, right? And so it's important to have that circle at the end of the day.
Yeah, once again, if you can trust people in your circle to give you honest feedback, and you can honestly take that feedback and
humbly.
Well, be transparent.
Humbly take it.
Right? Yeah. Take it, eat it, and do better the next day. I think just a lot of people feel like they're at a guillotine, right? Like, if it's
a key.
Yeah, if people...
You got to implement it.
Yeah, so like, oh, I wasn't good yesterday, I'm going to be fired today. You know what I mean? Like, and it's just too much of that.
Yep.
And whether it's fired or excommunicated or whatever, right? Like, they're not going to converse with me anymore. Like, that's the part. Like, we need better leadership so people don't feel like they're doing that.
I agree. Some of the key things that we talked about today and some key points you brought up were mindset. Obviously, we talked a lot about mindset, talked about leadership, having the right leaders, having the right people in the right seats in your organization, overcoming triumph, right? You had a lot of trials and tribulations that you faced. It all came back to mindset, you mentally getting to where you needed to be, putting yourself in the right positions around the right people, but that comes with mindset. Like you made a conscious decision to surround yourself, to make these changes and to do what it was that you had to do to get yourself out of those positions. So I got to ask you before I let you go, we'll end and wrap up soon. I want to hear real quick, actually, let me get 2 of your goals. I want to hear your top 2 goals. Give me a short-term goal, like maybe something you want to achieve in the next 12 months, and then a long-term goal, something you'd like to achieve over the next 12-plus months, 5 years.
I'm in the middle of doing this for business already too. I had the Word document open, so I'm like,
nice.
Which way do I want to? Yeah, because I'm doing like a complete revamp with partnerships. So, short-term goal, better family time management, more family experiences, right? Meaning just go enjoy it more, whether it's going to grab a hot dog or going to the duck pond or like whatever, right? Like
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be like Italy, vacations in Italy and all these other places.
Yeah.
Just better quality family time away from technology.
Yeah. Get
Whether
away
it's
from
sitting in the
distractions.
backyard and just having a conversation or whatever, right?
Yeah,
like
I love
just
it.
better
I love it.
family quality time. I have to work on that.
Yeah.
Long-term goal.
It's a great goal, by the way.
Thank you. Long-term goal is being in a position, and I have to still iron this out of how to get there, but being in a position where I am not relying on others financially, right? Whether it's work, job, boss, whatever it is, to have that kind of wealth in the next 1 to 3 years where I would have the opportunity to pick projects and bring people on that I listen to for those.
Right.
Right? Reverse, because I'm always brought on to have those conversations with other people.
Yeah.
I want to be in that position where I bring on people. I'm like, wow, I'm really floored on how much I learned.
Right.
Now, I'm not saying I don't have that now. I just want to be on the flip side of where I am now.
Yeah.
So that's the only way I can put it. Now I have to iron it out, but that's what I would say I want to do.
Okay. Awesome. I love it. And then we told him at the beginning we'd share the story of delivering.
You want the goods.
Yeah,
Okay.
we want to hear the story off the 15.
Yeah, so it was when my daughter was going to be born. I'm going to give you the condensed version because you're going to go buy the book because there's so much in the book and you'll see this again. So I'll give you a little bit of a condensed version. Once again, the book is On Borrowed Time, The Reinvention of a Lost Soul. But it was December 6th, and I get woken up at like 6:30 in the morning from my son. It was like around 6 a.m. And he's like, man, mom can't get off the couch, Dad. And I'm like, oh, hell no. This ain't happening here, dude. Like, we had a doula. We had like all these people who were supposed to be monitoring all this crap. And I'm like, what good were they?
Yeah.
Like, you're texting the whole night with a doula. Like, she's not like, oh, you're having these, like, we should go. Like, where was that advice, okay? Right? So, like, I get woken up in a panic, and I look, and I'm like, yo, this ain't happening, dude. So I call up the doula, and I'm like, for real? You're terrible at your job. I'm just letting you know. Like, this is where I was, right? I get woken up at 6 a.m. because my kid's like, Mom can't get off the couch. The first thing I do is I'm like, where are you, number one? Number two, you're terrible. I'm taking her to the hospital. Now, mind you, we live in Temecula, so we had to drive down to Poway. Not close, okay, at all. Meanwhile, here I am, and this is why I say, like, in crisis mode, I could have went 5 miles up the road to the hospital.
Right.
There was like 3.5, 4 miles away.
Yeah,
Wasn't even thinking about it because I wanted to get her to her doctor, okay?
Right. Yeah.
So my son's in the backseat. I'm like, strap in, bud. I'm already at like 100 miles per hour getting off the ramp onto the 15 going south on the 15 freeway. My kid's in the back seat, bro. He's got his arms up like he thinks this is a roller coaster ride. He's think of it. I mean, at that point he's 6.5 years old. So like
he didn't really know what was going on.
No. I mean, and here I am like coach talk, right? Like, buddy, I just need you. Just be a team player for me, please. I just need you. Here's an iPad. Like, have fun. Coloring books. You got all your stuff. Like, I need you to just stay there. Just do me a favor, please. Meanwhile, my wife's over there, and she's leaning over in all different directions. The sounds that are coming out of her are like, I don't even know what's going to happen. Like, in my head, you can't have a child outside the hospital, right? Like, we didn't survive thousands of years prior to all this, right? No, right? So I'm like in caveman mode. So there's a total bottleneck on the freeway. So I go on the side of the freeway. Right, I'm like, no rules apply to me, right?
Yeah.
But like, and here I am, like swerving a little bit, like keeping people from coming onto the side, and I blast through. I find this opening, dude, and I'm gunning it. I see an officer, I was like a state trooper, up in the left-hand lane. I was in the middle lane, but I pulled up at like 100 miles per hour, and I'm hanging. Like Ace Ventura hanging out the car. I'm like, we need help, right? And he looks, and my wife at that time is over my legs, bro, and she's like the noises coming out sound like Darth Vader / Chewbacca. Okay, like we know stuff is gonna happen, man. We ain't got time, right? So he sees her face. He sees my face. I didn't know if he was gonna shoot me in the face, right? Like just of the way it looked, and he just like hits his brakes, get behind me. So he gets behind me and he throws his lights, but it's his back lights, and he yells and the thing go. And he's just going like, I'm like, bro, I've got a free pass here. Let's go. So it was like 110. I'm at that point. He's following. I'm weaving in between traffic at the time. And I'm just trying to get there, bro. Like, I'm trying to get there. My kid's in the back seat. He sees a cop behind us. He thinks like, dude, we're in the movies, right?
We're on TV right now,
bro,
Dad.
There's like a 300-foot buffer behind the cop that's behind us. He throws his lights on, pulls up along the right side. He's like, hey, get off this exit, which is Gopher Canyon Road to Welk Resorts. He's like, because I notified fire and ambulance. We ain't going to make it. There's too much traffic. We're not going to make it to Poway. So get off. Okay, fine. So I get off. Bro, when I tell you the get off was like, you know what I mean? Like pulling over to the side, lock the brakes, through the e-brake. He pulls up. I take my son out the car. He grabs my son and moves completely away from the freeway, right? Mm-hmm. By the time I got back to the front, my daughter was already in my wife's yoga pants.
Oh my God.
Cord and all, bro. And here I am, and we're like cords around like her neck, kinda. So like we're pulling the baby up. Like it was nuts, dude. Like it was pure survival, right? So the ambulance and the fire truck, they show up, and they're like, hey, you want to cut the cord? I'm like, bro, get blankets. Like I don't care. Like cut the damn cord. I already got one kid, man. Like let's go. Like
this is a mess.
Yeah, like it looks like someone murdered a moose in the front seat of my car here, okay? Like this is not okay. So anyway, they end up getting all of them out. Everyone was okay. They get them to the hospital. And the cop comes back over to me and he's like, are you all right? I'm like, no. No, I'm not okay. All right? Do you see this? No, I'm not okay. And in my head, I'm just like, how am I going to get all this out of the car? Like, the sun's going to come out, right? Like, we live in Southern California. This is not going to be okay. Plus, if I ever got pulled over again, somebody's going to think like I committed a murder.
Oh,
okay?
for sure.
So I'm like trying to get this stuff out. I'm like trying to clean the car out. He comes back for the second time. He's like, are you okay? I'm like, honestly, dude, no. But I'm going to the hospital. Thank you for all your stuff. I'm going to throw on ESPN and just listen to something to keep my mind off it. And we're going to go from there. So he's like, all right, no problem, man. Thank you. I'm like, yeah, thank you. So I get to the hospital. Now it was a natural birth. Kendall's up.
As natural as it gets.
As natural as it gets, bro. Like side of the road, natural, no nothing. Kendall gets up and she goes, oh, I'm doing good. How about you? And I'm like, I'm not okay. What I just witnessed, I am not okay, okay? So the doula's over there. She finally gets in. I'm like, you haven't done anything. The only thing I want you to do is bring me back to my house. I got to get this car cleaned. I'm going to go pick up my other car. So we get back up there. I'd called the detail company. I literally, man, when I walked out of the car, I threw my keys across the parking lot to him. I was like, I'll see you in a couple days, bro. Like, I'll call you in a couple days. I'll see you later. Got back to my car, drove down back to the hospital. Little did we know, on the other side of the hill, right where the baby was born, was when we had the fires. So we only had a limited amount of time till the next morning to get out. Otherwise, we were going to be stuck at the hospital because we weren't going to be able to drive up the 15. They were closing the 15 and everything else. So we had to go through all the checks, everything else, got up, got back home. Everybody was safe. So that's the condensed version, yeah.
That is freaking phenomenal, man. That is
crazy.
Yeah. I'm curious. We'll save that one for another time. But just the mentality and the mindset,
survival,
and just to be in that mode is
look. I don't. And I'm
reaction, right?
I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna be honest. When I said earlier that you need to have catastrophic life events take place to humble you. Yes. The stuff that I went through growing up, the having to overcome diseases, the then heart surgery, losing that career, reinventing, If I had not had that stuff happen in my life, don't even know.
Mm-hmm.
I might have just curled up in a ball, dude. You know what I mean? Like,
they made you.
Yeah,
the hardships made you who you are.
They made me who I am. They made me every piece of who I am as a human. All the faults, all the greatness, all of it. And that's why. And I firmly believe that instead of trying to get rid of all of the things you've been through, no one's saying you got to talk about it every single day.
Yeah.
Embrace it. Mm-hmm. Make it who you are, and then move it forward.
Yeah. Agreed. No, that's great advice. At the end of the day, we all have a story. We all have a testimony. We all have experiences, and it's what we do with those experiences and how we allow those to shape us and our character. We could either, like you said, roll up in a ball, sit there and cry like a little baby, like, oh, I got the freaking worst hand dealt to me in the world. Yeah. Or you can play your cards like a man or a woman, and you can stand up. You can make the change in your life. You can create a new mindset. You can move out of state. Yep. You can start a new career. Whatever it is, like, we have the ability to do that, right?
Just got to believe it, man. And put a plan together. And if you're going to do it, have conviction. Find out what the why is for yourself first before trying to diagnose everybody else's why. Exactly. And actually try to execute it.
Yeah.
Right? To the best of your ability. And if you need help, then that's when you need to seek other people for their advice to figure out how you can execute your plan.
Yep.
Focus on your plan.
Focus on your plan.
That's it.
That's great. Anthony, where can people find you?
You can find me everywhere. Please go to... You wanna reach me, you'll see me over at IDIQ. You can find me on social media. You can find me on Facebook. You'll find me on LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn. It's the best for networking platforms. I would say go to LinkedIn, look up Anthony Williams. You'll see me and all the stuff that I've done. Shoot me a message. I'm more than happy. I do not just delete messages. I actually converse with the people who message me. So come on and check me out on LinkedIn.
Cool. And then last question, how can we and our viewers best support you and your business?
Man, you come on LinkedIn, message me, and let's build partnerships and relationships. My entire career at this point is building those partnerships between businesses and other networks. So reach me on LinkedIn. We'll start from there.
Cool. Sounds good. Yeah. Anthony, appreciate you having the time for us and coming on.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me.
All right.